No, and you might want to point it down to the camera a little bit too.
Okay.
Okay. Move it back. I don't know, it's great. A little lower, maybe. Hi, everybody.
I don't
We're
because
trying
then
to
your
figure
head
this
isn't
out.
in it.
No, okay, a little up, a little more up. Okay, there. Okay, we have some people in a distance, I see. Thank you for joining us. And we also have a studio audience here. We have Susanna, thank heavens, from the library, who's the techie here. And we have another techie who is Sandra Kelly. And we have Sam, my husband. So welcome, everybody. What we're going to make today is chicken schnitzel, very simple. And you can use, you don't have to call it schnitzel, you can call it chicken cutlets and use it for your Parmesan or whatever. A chicken sandwich is great with this also, or for this. And you can, oh, Mary and Bob, from Bethel, our longtime friends. Hi, thanks for watching. You can so also use it as a chicken sandwich or something like that. And then we're going to make Spaetzle, which is kind of like a noodle type thing. And that's also easy, but I have some special equipment for that. Not everybody has that. And then we're going to make a family red cabbage recipe. And I thought we needed something else. So for dessert, we're going to make a very simple, real quick apple and cranberry crostata. So that's what we're going to do. And we'll see the chicken totally finished, as well as the Spaetzle and red cabbage. But we'll make the crostata last, and then that has to bake for 45 minutes. So we'll see the beginning of that, but not the end. So here we go. The first thing we're going to do is to pound the chicken cutlets. We're going to cut the chicken cutlets, and then we're going to pound them. So when I buy chicken breasts, and I bring them home, I usually get the family pack, and I bring them home. We separate them, and I put each one in a small plastic Ziploc bag, and I put that in the freezer. So if we're going to have company for dinner, I take out a couple. If it's just going to be us, then I just take out one. And this is partially thawed. And if my son is watching, excuse me, I have to put on my rubber gloves. Because
your son is watching, or should
he might be. He might be. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get these on. Whenever you work with particularly chicken, you really should take some, I can't get these on because my hands are wet. You should really take some precautions. Simple things, the glove thing is kind of going a little further. He wouldn't say that, but when you finish with your cutting board, this will go in the sink. The only thing that we're going to cut on this is meat. And when this goes in the sink, when we're washing up later, this will have bleach poured over it and scrubbed with a scrubby, because the chicken could produce a lot of bacteria. And for the next time you use the cutting board, so we don't want anybody to get sick. So that's what we would do with that. Oh man, this is terrible.
There you go.
Yeah.
You got it.
I think I can use. I have this gigantic knife, and this is a carving knife. It's also great for bread, and it's quite sharp. It's serrated, and I'll tell you more about knives later. So I'm going to put my hand on this. my flat hand. You don't have to worry about this if you do it right. And I'm going to cut the chicken cutlet about maybe 1/4 of an inch. This one is still a little too frozen. So there we are. See that? Okay, I think I can get another one out of this too. Okay.
That is sharp.
Yeah, yeah. So there's that. There's another one. Okay. That's good for that. So the next thing we're going to do is to, I also want to show you, these are boneless pork chops. And the way I get these boneless pork chops is I buy about this big, and when you get them on sale for, I don't know, $1.50 a pound or something, we just slice them while it's, before it's frozen. We slice them into pieces, maybe this thick, maybe a little bit thicker. And then we freeze them in little tiny plastic bags. And you can use it just like this and fry it with some apples and some brandy or some apple cider. But you can also use these for schnitzel. That's called Jaeger schnitzel, right, Sam? And you can really use any meat, although, so chicken and pork usually work the best. So we have 2 pork chops here too. We're gonna have like a buffet.
Do we get a choice tonight at dinner?
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Okay, mine's off too.
Okay, so I'm just gonna trim the pork up just a tiny little bit. If there's a little fat left on the chicken, it's all right. Because when you cook it, that will go away. Okay. Now we're gonna pound these babies. So the one thing you want to do, I made this mistake when I first started this pounding stuff, is you want to make sure you put a piece of saran on top of them. Usually I work at this counter over here. This counter is a little bit lower than my island. And it's a wonderful counter to work at if you're building a new kitchen and you have the opportunity to put in a counter that's a little bit lower. This is probably only what, like 5 or 6 inches lower.
Yeah.
It's a very nice level to work at. It's lower. You can, if you're kneading bread, which I don't do, but there's other things, chopping anything. It's much more comfortable when the counter is a little lower. But I can't do that over there because the computer wouldn't shine there. So the first time I did this, I just took the pounder, the mallet, and I started away. But let me tell you, I had raw chicken all over this window. So yeah, you know, learn and do, live and learn. So we really just smack it hard. This mallet is 2-sided. Actually, I bought this in Germany. One side is flat. It's pretty heavy too. And the other side has little bumps. It's more of a tenderizer. But the chicken is pretty tender, so you don't need the tenderizer. But this flat part, you can do it with a rolling pin. But if you're going to make things often.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
what meat would you use the other side for? Would it be, say, a beef? If you want to make like a Salisbury steak or something?
Yeah, yeah, or if you have a tough piece of beef, a London broil or something like that, and you wanted to flatten it out and make like a minute steak where you wanted it maybe a little more tender, that's what you would use. But you wouldn't do it. See, this chicken cutlet is, that's pretty thin. And from that small piece that we had, well, the piece was actually smaller than, that was this, about this size, maybe a little smaller. We've gotten this pretty large piece, but you're still having this the same, even though it's thinner and larger, it's still the same amount of meat if you try to limit your meat consumption. I've done some of these before. Okay, here's number 3. Save some. Whoa. Okay. This is a thinner one, so I don't think I'm going to pound as much. That's chicken. Now we're going to do the pork. The pork has a little more fiber in it, sinew in it. What's the word? It needs a little more pounding. And if you have holes in the pieces, like this one has a few holes, that's okay. Because once you bread it and fry it, that'll be fine, not a problem. So you don't need to throw away, you know, if one breaks or something, don't throw it away. Kind of pinch it together, it'll be fine. Right.
Good recipe if you're having a bad day.
Yes, it's a good anger taker outer. Okay, so we'll do that later. Next, we're going to bread these. We need some eggs. And some breadcrumbs. I'm using, this is panko. And panko is, it's breadcrumbs, but they're just a little coarser. And regular breadcrumbs are fine. I don't think I would use the flavored ones for this dish with the other things that we're going to have with it. So this is my dish. I'm going to dip the eggs in, dip the chicken in. put a little water in the bowl. Just crack the whole egg in it. Start with one egg. You might need to put another one in, but maybe not. So we take a piece of, this one's pork, take a piece of pork, they look a lot alike. And then we put it in the breadcrumbs, push it around. Okay. I was talking about knives before. If you're going to spend money on any cooking tools, you can't go wrong with buying good knives. And as much as you can afford, because cooking is so much easier if you have the right tools, particularly knives. And they're not difficult to keep up, but you do kind of have to keep up with them. Depending on how much you cook, we do a lot in our house, so we need to sharpen our knives maybe once every 3 or 4 months. You can also take a steel just to kind of semi-sharpen it. And this is our knife sharpener. Oops. This is Chef's Choice, and I looked it up on Amazon. This is kind of old, but it works fine. Looked it up on Amazon, and you can buy these on Amazon, different models, of course, from anywhere from $69 to, oh my gosh, they have one for $200. This probably would be the $69 one, and it's electric. Oops. So you have it plugged in someplace, and you just run the blade of the knife through. It does serrated knives also, and that's nice to have that. Very helpful.
It's good advice, Linda. There's nothing worse than a dull knife.
Yes, yes.
That's when you get cut.
Right, that's right, Sandra. Sandra just said that you have more of a chance of getting cut with a knife when it's dull than when it's sharp. Just so long as anybody that might be using them knows that they're sharp. That's important. But you will find it much easier if you have a good knife and that it's well sharpened. Okay, so we are egging and breading these.
I'm giving the instructions.
Okay,
So
we're
they
just
can see it a little
readjusting
more.
here. You want to pull it back further?
Sure. Is this person, are they muted?
Are they muted?
Yeah.
I don't know. Bob and Mary, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, can you mute yourselves?
No. Or Judy could do it if not.
Everybody is muted.
Everyone's muted. Okay.
Okay,
I was
okay.
just wondering because we can't, usually you can see yourself if you select it. And so where our view is limited.
Okay, Bob, we muted you we muted you remotely, so you're all set. You can still watch, but you can't talk right now.
But later.
But later,
you can.
yes, you'll have a chance. Absolutely. Okay, so we have floured, breadcrumbed these, and now, oops, we're gonna cook them. sorry, forgot something. To cook the chicken, I'm using vegetable oil, which is soybean oil. So it's an okay oil, and I find that that works well. You can use peanut oil and several different kinds. I wouldn't use olive oil. The flavor might be a little too strong, and you really don't need to use olive oil. The vegetable oil is fine. So I have a real big frying pan. I think it's probably a 14-inch. I use this a lot. It's very large.
Is it iron?
No, this is it's coated Teflon or Circulon.
So you can see.
Okay, I'm heating up the oil. Let that get pretty hot before we put the chicken in. And in the meantime, I'll tell you about the thing we're going to make, and that is the red cabbage. This is a typical German dinner, by the way. Almost every restaurant you go in will have Schnitzel and maybe red cabbage. And the interesting thing, how do you say that? Rotkolb. Okay. And the interesting thing that we found, we've been to Germany maybe half a dozen times. We love it there. And you go into a restaurant, and of course, we want the typical German meal. And on the menu, they love French fries. So everything comes with French fries. And we're like, French fries? We don't want French fries. So we say, gee, instead of French fries, can we have Spaetzle? And they're like, you want Spaetzle? And we're like, yeah. So, and they have almost always accommodated us. To them, that's a very simple thing to prepare, and it's fairly cheap and everything. So that's pretty interesting. But that is typically German, and you find that in almost every restaurant. We don't tend to dine in fine restaurants when we travel. We like the workman kind of places, the places where the local people go, and we just find that interesting. I think you get more of their culture that way if you dine in the places that they are. That should be really warm. Okay, let me just grab something out of here. The other thing, we don't have to make this, but we're going to have the chicken accompanied by this, and Suzanne will know this.
Oh yeah.
Lingonberries. And lingonberries, this is kind of like a cranberry sauce. It's a little bumpier than a smooth cranberry sauce. You can see that, and the taste is quite cranberry-ish. It's a little on the tart side, but it's wonderful. This is a Swedish thing. In fact, this jar, you can't find these in a lot of places. IKEA? Oh, well, of course, yeah. IKEA, yes. This came from like a gourmet food store thing, and I haven't seen them. I doubt you'd ever find it at Shaw's or Stop and Shop, but occasionally you can in IKEA. So that's good to know. Okay, this is the chicken. Do you want to hold it? Yeah, I can cook over here.
Okay. Do you it's charged enough? Or I can just open it.
Yeah, just hold that. Okay, the oil is heated up. gonna put these in. This doesn't take very long, probably 2 minutes on a side because they're so thin. So we're gonna put them and then we'll put them aside on a plate. You can put them in your oven, maybe turn it on and get it nice and hot, which I haven't done, but I'll put them in there anyway. And just keep them warm while you prepare everything else.
I've actually never made this, which is strange. Now I'm gonna try.
As I look at these frying here, I think of chicken fingers. And my grandchildren are crazy about chicken fingers. And I think if I gave them these, I would never call it anything other than chicken fingers because it looks, the small pieces that I have from a couple of them are very much like that. You can add salt and pepper to either the breadcrumb stage, to sprinkle some on the breadcrumbs, or at this stage when they're frying, or you can just, when you serve it to people, you'll have salt and pepper on the table, and then people can add their own. That's what we're going to do today. The small pieces are ready. A little bit more. So we're going to do this in 2 batches. They go so quick that it's not going to, this part of the whole thing is not going to take you very long at all.
And while you're doing this, you normally, pre-cook or pre-make the dough for the Spaetzle.
The Spaetzle doesn't need to, you could, if Sam and I were cooking together, he would be making that mix and I'd be doing this part of it. But it doesn't need to set too long. After I mix that up, which I'll do next, and then just let it sit. I have the red cabbage started a little bit, one first step of it, and I'll continue with that and then come back to the steps. I like to have the special ready when the rest of the dinner is ready, because you can put them in the oven also to keep them warm. Some people take them and fry them in butter and then serve them like that. That's also a good way to do it if you have leftovers. But we'll do them kind of last. We want to have a fire here. See how efficient the fire department is. Adding a little more oil. I'm gonna put that down. Is that okay to hold it? Oh, there's Wendy. Hi, Wendy.
Okay. Kind of nice to be able to see where the magic happens.
Wendy, before you, can you hear me, Wendy?
Unmute. Now can you hear me?
She's mute, but she should be able to hear me.
I
Yeah.
hear you.
Okay. Before you came on, I introduced Suzanne, who was from the library, and she's our tech person here today. And as backup, we have in our studio audience, Sandra Kelly, who is also the tech person and also the cook. And
As well.
yes, and we have Sam as the tester. So we are covered here totally.
Perfect.
Wendy, if you could mute yourself,
I will.
I think that's the way our system works. Sometimes you get one of these in the shape of Block Island, which is kind of fun.
I feel like everything is in the shape of Block Island since I've been out here.
Okay, these are almost done. So we're cooking, finish up cooking the chicken, Schnitzel. And then we're going to let that rest in the oven. And we will make the Spaetzle dough. And just a minute. Smelling delicious. Thank you. All right, next thing. I need my glasses.
Move it back to the.
Okay. So Sam's recipe. He was the one that always used to make these. So we need 1.5 cups of flour. Sam, should I make a double batch? Huh? What? Okay, we're gonna make a,
You better make a double batch because you got some hungry people coming,
right, that's right.
especially Mr. Kelly.
I have to feed my crew. I hope you'll stay too, Suzanne.
Judy, can you hear us okay? Is everything good?
Okay, I'm-
You're good. Yeah, we can hear you.
And is the video a little bit better?
Right. Yeah, just don't move around so much.
I was just trying to get her when she was cooking.
Yeah, that's great. We can see the food and everything.
Okay, good. And I'll just now focus it more on the food.
Okay, good. We're making the Spaetzle dough now, and we're using a double recipe. And if anybody would like any of these recipes, there's no secret family recipes here. So you could contact Suzanne or contact me.
We'll
and-
actually post it when we put it on YouTube. We put the recipe.
Oh, okay, perfect. I'll have them, or the library will have them up on YouTube. So you can copy them.
Suzanne? 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 We muted
Muted.
Linda by accident.
Is it better?
Okay, just
But
scoot
you're
over for a
muted.
minute.
Yes, thank you.
Great. So we're making the Spaetzle dough now. And I've made a double recipe because I've been informed that my crew is going to be very hungry. So we want to make sure we have enough for them. Oops. And tablespoon of oil. I'll take a picture of your recipe. There they are. 2 tablespoons of oil in the batter. 1, 2. Okay, that's it. Okay. After we make this batter, we're just going to let it rest for a little while. It has baking powder in it. So we'll let the baking powder activate itself with the flour, the water, and the eggs. Okay. That's stir.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yep.
That's good.
Okay, so we have put all the ingredients into the Spaetzle now. Suzanne is just, you can add a little more water here.
It's pretty good.
Okay, Spaetzle is done. Now we're doing the red cabbage. Can you see me, Judy?
Jude?
Yeah,
can you see-
you're doing
Okay.
okay. We can see it. It's
Yes,
good.
ma'am. Back here.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay, so for the red cabbage, I did do this earlier. In a pot, I chopped up some raw bacon and I just rendered it. Probably less than 1/4 of a pound. And I just cut pieces off like this of the whole long bacon package. And then I chop it up raw, throw it in the pot. And that way, when it's finished cooking, I just have to drain off the fat and I'm good to go. So that's the bacon. The other things in the Spaetzle, in the red cabbage, are going to be onions. So I'm cutting those up now with my very sharp knife. Okay, onions. I put everything in. This is taking red cabbage, onions, apples, bacon, apple cider, sugar, and brown sugar. So going to measure out my apple cider, and I want 2 cups of that. With 1 head of red cabbage, and it wasn't a large head, I'm using 3/4 of it. This recipe just makes a lot. But the one good thing about this, well, there's many good things about this, it's delicious. Another good thing about it is when you have leftovers, and you probably will, this stuff lasts forever. You put it in a plastic container, and the vinegar has kind of preserved the vegetables, and put it in the refrigerator. I've had it's all cooked up and everything. I've had it in the refrigerator maybe for 2 months, and then still served it. Sandra's telling me I'm not going to have a lot of leftovers tonight, which is fine. That's good. I don't like leftovers. So we're just getting these onions a little bit soft. Bacon's already cooked. So I just put a shot of olive oil in. The pan was a little dry. I think I probably drained the bacon off too much, but that olive oil will help it from sticking a little bit. The next thing I'm going to add are the apples. I've just cut the apples into chunks, and you can use any kind of apple. Some of these were like really old apples, maybe even Block Island apples, and that's fine. They're going to really cook down, so it doesn't matter that they're good apples. And they can be any kind. I would tend, if I was buying them specifically for this recipe, I would tend to buy something that perhaps was a little more tart, like not a Red Delicious, some other kind, Maccoon or Empire. Granny Smith, yeah, Granny Smith. So the apples are in. It's interesting, I keep looking at this recipe, and I've made this dozens of times. It's so flavorful, but there aren't any spices in it at all. The apple cider and the apples, the onions, and the bacon give it its flavor. And I always think, oh my gosh, I missed something. And there is no spice like cinnamon or allspice or something. None of that. I've cut the red cabbage in kind of chunks. You could slice it thin. You wouldn't want to grate it, that's too small. But this is just like chunks, and all of these more solid pieces, this will come apart in the cooking process.
Is it making you hungry, Jude?
It is. I got some more ice cream.
We have this huge thing of ice cream at the library.
Between each addition to the red cabbage, I saute that addition in the pot. I just keep adding the ingredients. So they don't have to be cooked through because this will cook down. But it just gives them like a little braising.
How do people at the end? I mean, they can always unmute themselves. Do you want to tell them that?
Yeah, Linda was just saying that, and we're having a little bit really bright in the window, so it's just a matter of time, I guess. I don't know if it's gonna. But if anyone had questions at this point, people can unmute and ask. About you, Judy. Any questions? She was about to take a
No, it's
swig.
just looking delicious. That's all.
It smell. I can for the olfactory response, I can attest to that.
Did Linda add any salt or anything like that to it?
No, she was saying that that's one of the things that is so interesting. It's not spiced at all,
Yeah,
and it's just wicked good.
it does
Well,
look
I
good.
mean, I'm smelling it good. Yeah. sehr gut, as we would say. Auf gut.
Do we need more white over here?
I have, oh, right, let's do that.
Okay.
Let's look at a little.
That is cooking along. We're very good with that. Next, we're going to add a cup of white sugar and a half a cup of brown sugar. A lot of sugar. Well, I was going to do jam, and then I never did.
You know where to go if you need
I
sugar.
have these big things because I used to buy a 25-pound bag of sugar
Wow.
during jam making. Okay, there's our cup of sugar.
Okay, so no spices yet, but now there's sugar, so.
And brown sugar. This is my baking drawer.
Oh.
I have a baking drawer, and it's about that deep in my island. And all of my baking things, baking powder, baking soda, raisins, chocolate chips, Karo syrup, some spices, are all kept in this drawer. And it's so much easier than hunting through the pantry for them. It's just, because there's a lot of things when you bake that you might use, and this way they're all together. Okay, here comes the brown sugar. And then we're going to do the vinegar. This is 2 cups of apple cider vinegar. Done.
She just put 2 cups of apple cider vinegar in, Jude. Just because Judy was away.
Okay. So that's going to cook now for maybe 20, 25 minutes. And I just, on my pot here, that's on the stove, I just put a wooden, this is a spatula, or a wooden spoon. This is a little tip. If you put a wooden spoon or a wooden spatula across your pot, you have to make sure that the flame doesn't hit it. You don't want to set it on fire. The pot will never boil over if you have something suspended like that, which it's amazing, but it really works. But my daughter tells me don't ever put your wooden cooking utensils in the dishwasher for fear of fire.
Really?
Yes,
Ooh.
especially like on the top
Good to
rack
know.
where you'd want to put it. If the water pressure is really strong, it can, throw it down to the bottom, and then you have that heating coil. That could be trouble.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, good tip, Elizabeth. Okay, and then while that's cooking, I want to show you my little science project. These are Scallion Bottoms. You recognize that? So the tops were a little more white and then green, and I used them in a stir fry. So I saved these little things that they have roots on them when I bought them, and I put them in a little glass with some water. I have about 6 or 7 in here, and I just have them on the counter, on the by the window. It doesn't matter. The window doesn't matter. And these will grow. You can see a little bit of the growth. I just put these in here maybe 2 or 3 days ago. Whoops. This little tiny green on the top. This scallion is growing again. And
You can put it in dirt and they'll just keep coming.
Oh, they will?
Yeah,
I haven't tried the dirt.
I've done that just because I'm like, there's roots. Let's
Yeah.
do something.
You can get maybe 2 or 3 more cuttings from these. It's very economical. You buy a bunch of scallions and you get like 3. And it's kind of fun to watch them. Okay, the red cabbage is simmering on the stove. And now we're going to do the Spaetzle. Just gonna fill that here. Okay.
Okay, so you put a dash of salt in.
I'm boiling a pot of water, a fairly good sized Dutch oven pot of water. That's how we're going to cook the Spaetzle. We have to get that boiling. Gonna be a little late on that, but first time doing this, so timing. Have to adjust timing for another time. Anybody have any questions? No. You can unmute yourself to ask a question if you would like. Well, I'm of German extract. My father was German. He wasn't born in Germany. He was born here, as was his father. And I don't know any further back than that. But it is a German name. Keebler was my maiden name, and it has a U, K-U-E. And there was an umlaut over the U, which made it sound like an E. My brother used to tell people that we were the cookie family,
Right.
and that we were Keebler cookies.
That's why you have all the biscuit tins.
Yeah.
Cool.
But that's not true. But Sam and I have enjoyed so many times going to Germany for traveling, and we like the German food. Something that we had in my family often that my mother made, she had my grandmother's Sauerbratten recipe, which would have been my mother's mother-in-law. And both my mother and my grandmother were pretty good cooks. The other grandmother, not so much. We always brought food to her house. But anyway, Sauerbraten is something that the whole family enjoys. And that is a secret recipe that we're not sharing. My family tells me.
How do you make it?
Nope. You can come for dinner, but you're not getting the recipe. And
That's a good deal.
it's a fairly typical recipe. And with that, what my grandmother would serve were called, and I'm probably saying this wrong, but we called it Caballese. And it was like a potato ball. And it was boiled potatoes mashed, just like crushed, in a dish towel. So when you mash them onto the dish towel, it took out the moisture from it. But I'll tell you, that dish towel was so hard to get clean after that, there are other ways to do it. And we just added a little bit of flour and a little bit of breadcrumbs. And then we always put a little piece of toast in the center of it. And somebody asked me once, well, why did you put that little piece of toast inside? And I'm like, I don't know. My mother and my grandmother did
or something?
like a crouton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I have no idea. It
make it
probably
pretty.
was because my grandmother figured out that they were too wet. So if I put a little piece of bread or toast in there, it'll dry them out. So I don't know if it has anything to do culinarially, but that's what we did. That's what a family recipe is kind of all about. So we're still waiting for our Spaetzle.
Are they fried or sauteed or?
No, they're it's interesting how you cook them. You get a big pot of water, a bigger pot of water than these, maybe something that is like this tall. And I would usually make about a dozen of them, and we call them sinkers also. They're about this big around the ball after you take it with your hands and mix all the ingredients. There's an egg also in that mix to kind of hold everything together. And you kind of have to really form them and press them. And the water's boiling, you drop them in very carefully. And then when they come to the surface, that's when they're cooked. So you then take them out with a slotted spoon and just let them sit on a plate and kind of drain, keep it in the oven to keep them warm. Leftovers for those, we like the leftovers better than the first time around. You would fry them, chill them, and then fry them and slice them up and fry them in a little bit of butter. And so they're a little crispy on the outside, delicious.
What are they called again? Linda?
Kartoffelglas.
Well,
Is that-
sounds like kartoffel,
Kartoffel.
which is, well, but it's probably like a dialect. And
Mhm.
so it's like, they always say "we" on the end to make it like kind of cute. So if it's kartoffel, like that sounds like a dialect.
Uh-huh.
So little potatoes.
A little bit, what's glace? Glace?
I'm not sure if that means, if that's some sort of meaning for the shape, or I have to look that up.
Okay, well, that's what they are. Next time we're making Sauerbraten, maybe we'll have those. Do you have to be back at any certain time or?
It's okay. I can
Okay,
hang with
you're
you.
good. While we're waiting for that water to boil, we're gonna make the crostata. And oh, I wanted to show you that. This is very important. Here's what we're using for the dough. Everybody see this box? This is a box of 2 of these. They come in a little cellophane bag. And you get these in any store. You can buy the store's own brand. This one is from Aldi's, love Aldi's. The store's own brand, because Pillsbury is probably making them all for everybody. So, and these pie crusts are really pretty good. They're very easy. You can freeze them. And when you freeze them, you want to make sure that you defrost it either on the counter or in the refrigerator. And when you use them, you want to have kept it on the box or just the sleeve that they come in. You want to have kept it on the counter because you want it relatively flexible. Whether you're making a pie or a tart or this crostata, which is that right way to say it, which is kind of like a rough pie. So you want that flexible. So we have that. What I have done, what I have here is some cut up apple. Here again, any kind of apples, and some fresh cranberries. Cranberries you can freeze. They freeze fabulously. And I'm just going to roll. This out a tiny little bit. I don't need to roll it out much, but just to make it just a little bit bigger. Okay. So how easy can this be? We dump this in here. That's an Barton thing, isn't it? How easy is this? Okay, we have the apples and the cranberries. Can you show that?
Tilt it down a
And,
little bit so we can see.
On the sheet of pastry.
I'm trying.
Okay, see, that's right in the middle. Leave a border of a
Good, good.
couple inches. And then this is so easy, we just kind of fold it up. Make little pleats as you go along. It doesn't have to be, it's very rustic. That's the beauty of it. It doesn't have to be even or anything. Just want to kind of hold it together. There. Then we're gonna put it on a baking sheet. This red thing is called a Silpat. It's made from like a silicone material, and it doesn't burn in the oven. I don't know about the broiler. I don't think I tried that. And you don't have to coat it with spray or anything like that. And we're just gonna hopefully get the crostata onto the baking sheet. Then right before I put it in the oven, which I'm not going to do now because my oven has a fan and it's so noisy we won't be able to talk. So I just put it there. Before I put it in the oven, I would put an egg wash, just scramble up an egg, not the one, I have some left over from the chicken, not that one. That chicken wash cannot go anywhere but in the garbage. Because you cannot use, that has raw chicken in it. You cannot use that for anything else. So I would put like a little, just
You
crack
don't
an egg,
just use the white, you like mix the whole thing.
the whole egg. Oh, okay. Yeah. To put the coating on this. And then I would sprinkle some coarse sugar on it, or you don't have to put the sugar, but it kind of looks nice. This is from probably Christmas tree shop. You get it in this shaker thing, very reasonably priced. It's nice to have one of these if you're making, for instance, a bundt cake and you're not going to put an icing on it or glaze, just sprinkle some of this on when it comes out of the oven. And the cake will be warm enough that it'll make this stick, but it won't melt this because this is so coarse. And then I would bake this. This is a pie crust thing. So I would bake it at 375 for about at 30 minutes. I'd start looking at it. That would probably be about right. You want the pastry to be like a light golden brown, and the apples will break down and the cranberries, and it will bubble a little bit, and it's done. This one will serve 4 people.
You wanna hold it up again?
Sure. Yep, here it is. Okay. Very simple dessert. Okay, we have this boiling. All right, this is the fun part. Okay, this gizmo is a Spaetzle maker. Comes in 2 pieces. It's like a grater on this part, and then like a little carrier on this part, and it fits together like this. Okay. The batter is going to go, I can't hold it up once I put it in. The batter is going to go in this part, and then I'm going to slide it back and forth over the pot of boiling water. These little wormy kind of things will come out. This has like a little edge on it here, so it won't move on the pot. This little edge will hold it on the pot. So I just have to hold this side and do this. And when they hit the water, they're small, so they will cook very, very quickly. And I do it by batches. Once I get a bunch in the water, then I'll wait, and they take a minute. I'll scoop them out then. Before I put the batter in here, I'm going to spray it with, this is Vegeline, but Pam, something like that. Because this batter is kind of sticky, and it just makes it a little simpler.
Linda, what happens if you don't have one of those spatula things?
A Spaetzle maker?
Oh,
Yes,
how do you do it if you don't have that?
yes.
Yes. You can use a colander.
A colander?
That has a colander, like a metal colander, would be probably better than a plastic one. And you just kind of push it through. with a spoon, if you just, like a wooden spoon or a good sized plastic spoon, if you just kept stirring it and rubbing it, they will come through. And or you could use, you couldn't use a regular grater unless it was just like this part of the grater. You could do that, I guess. We used to use a colander or a strainer that has very large holes. A regular strainer would be too thin. So I'm gonna put that on the pot. Show them what this is what the batter looks like. That's pretty thick. So here we go.
Let me see if I can move it over a little to the. Can you see it, Jude?
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool.
Okay, here we go.
It looks the consistency of pancake mix.
Yeah, maybe a little thicker.
The computer back.
Okay, here's what they look. Ooh, that's not. Here's what they look like. They're done. Tiny little noodles. One more batch. Do we have like a clock stop at an hour or something?
Usually it goes till 5, but I don't know if you want to just like wrap it up. I don't know if they need.
That's all right. You can keep going. Just keep going.
Okay. Judy wants to know what it's gonna look like.
Suzanne, do you need to come back to the library?
I have my keys.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Was your mom also of German heritage?
No, no. My mother was English, Scottish, Irish.
That's a Celtic mix.
Kind of Europe.
Yeah. European. Oh, that looks beautiful. Like really professional. Oh, so that's neat. So
We're
you
just
freeze it.
plating up a dinner here. Yeah, just loose parsley.
That's cool.
Lingonberry.
A little dollop. In the center or no?
Oh, it's
Like the breadcrumb.
It'll mess up the.
Yeah.
Okay, ta-da, here we are.
Okay, so wait, you're doing that.
Okay, this is our dinner. Chicken schnitzel, Spaetzle, lingonberries, and Jonathan's red cabbage. Bon appetit.
Yummy, yummy.
They say guten appetit.
Guten appetit, yes, exactly.
Okay, so
I thank you for tuning in, and to my friends that I haven't seen in a long time. It was good to see you there on video, and I miss you all. And the people that I see more often, I wish I saw you more often when we can get these masks off and be together again like we were. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, Linda.
Does anybody have any questions for Linda before we close off? No?
what about you, Jude? Any?
Well, I'm always saying when's supper?
Thank you,
So
Linda.
thank you,
for sharing.
Linda. It was excellent, very excellent. And thank you very much for doing what you do so well.
You're very welcome. I was a nervous wreck, I have to admit. So I'm
No,
glad
you're
I had my
fabulous.
support system here.
We're gonna need you to do this again.
No, well, we'll see.
I didn't use a lot of them.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So much.
Thank
you. Jude.
And
Yeah.
you put this in and that's all gone in, so the only thing we have left is the onion.
Right, we don't need to come over here.
And
You know,